He found her name through the building's management office after 3 days of trying. Eleanor Voss. She had lived in his apartment for 9 years. In October, 4 years before Marcus moved in, she had been found at the bottom of the back stairwell with a head injury that the official report described carefully as consistent with a fall. No signs of forced entry, no witnesses. The case had been reviewed twice and closed both times for insufficient evidence, which was, Marcus had come to understand, a polite way of saying, "We believe something happened here and we cannot prove it." He sat with her name for a long time. He thought about the shape in the footage, standing in the corner of the room where she had once lived, watching him the way someone watches a person they are trying to decide whether to trust. He went back through all the footage. Night after night she was there, always at the edge of the frame, always still, always watching. But as the nights progressed, he began to notice something else. She wasn't looking at him. Not exactly. Her attention seemed directed somewhere slightly past him, toward the wall beside the door, as if there were something there that only she could see. And on the nights he woke with new scratches, the scratches weren't on his arms. They were on his hands, his knuckles, as if he'd been pressing his palms against something in the dark. He knocked on the wall beside the door one afternoon, working his way down from the ceiling, listening to the sound change. Hollow, hollow, hollow. And then, at about shoulder height, solid. Too solid. He got a screwdriver and removed the baseboard. Behind it was a strip of wall that had been replastered at some point after the original construction, newer than the plaster on either side. He cut into it carefully and found a small gap between the walls, barely 4 inches deep, in which Eleanor Voss had apparently left the only evidence she could. Photographs. A folded sheet of paper with dates and names written in a tight, controlled hand. A man's name, recurring. Dates that aligned with what Marcus now understood were her attempts to document something she was terrified to say aloud. He called the detective whose name appeared in the original case file. He sent everything digitally that same night. 2 weeks later, he received a message telling him the case had been reopened. That night, for the first time since he'd set up the camera, the corner of the bedroom was empty. He watched the footage the next morning and felt the apartment differently, the way a room feels after all the windows have been opened. The scratches didn't come back. He almost stopped checking the footage. He thought about calling Dr. Reyes to tell her he'd been sleeping better. He thought privately and with some embarrassment that maybe he'd done something good. Finally, it was over, he thought.